Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Ah, yes. Remember Ann Landers? Oh, she came up with some good quotes, and here's one of them. Know yourself. Don't accept your dog's admiration as conclusive evidence that you're wonderful. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Call in, call in, call in. Good morning. There she is. I love that song. Gets me going in the morning. God bless America. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. And now, let's go right to the phone line for our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
You the man?
I am the man this morning.
All right, go ahead, please.
All righty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the weather forecast brought to you by Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems. That's right. They offer up to a $1,700 rebate on qualifying new Lennox Home Comfort Systems. All you have to do is call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Now, here's the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. We are looking at sunny skies for today, but it's going to be windy. We are having a wind advisory that is going to be in effect from noon today until about 9 o'clock tonight. Wind steady out of the west, 20 to 30 miles an hour, gusts possible of 40+. Other than that, high of 72. Tonight, low of 41. Tomorrow, winds dying down. Looks like sunny skies, high of 67 with an overnight low of 44. And then partly to mostly sunny skies and 65 as we kick off the weekend. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Hey, don't forget, folks, a very, very worthwhile event to be a part of, and that's the Relay for Life, coming together on Saturday, June 10th for the Mini-Cache area from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the Burley High School track. Don't forget, one wish, two wish, you wish, I wish for a cure, Relay for Life for 2017, and they'll have teams take turns walking and running around the track, and I just think this is a cause that we all need to help, all need to contribute to. Relay for Life. Don't forget, we just talked about our friends a moment ago, and that's Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, and the number to call, 678-0459. Now, yesterday I got spoiled, man. I mean, that sun and that warm and that sitting out there and enjoying it between all the little chores I had to do. It was a beautiful day. Well, pretty soon we're going to get to turn on the air conditioners. Well, you'd better make sure that your air conditioning works efficiently and keeps you cool. Check out all the air conditioner filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Yep, they're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric. And one other thing I want to mention quickly before we get to some of our top stories and your phone calls. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. You know, last night We had a bunch of family and friends come over, and we roped and had a good time. We didn't eat any supper, and I got so hungry. And I'll tell you what, this morning I wish there was a Denny's restaurant at 611 North Overland and Burley for a great, big, delicious breakfast. Oh, they've got some phenomenal breakfasts over there. And a new line of burgers, knock your boots off delicious, at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland and Burley, and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant. Well, I'm not going to mince words this morning on the show, as I normally don't. Of course, there will be some of the critics probably that will have the cowardice of calling me on my cell phone after the show or sending emails that I haven't a clue who they are. But I'm going to go ahead and call the spades this morning. Absolute Loser Networks, CBS, NBC, ABC. Do you know that they did not carry even a smidget of President Trump's very dynamic speeches over in the Middle East? Oh, no. They were too busy running anti-Trump stories. Now, the American people, we deserve and are not getting the truth from so-called journalists. And it's even in the local papers, your nationwide papers, a real slant, a complete bias against this administration. If you don't believe me, just pick up any paper and start going through it. And look at the negativity. Look at the attitude that's pervaded against this administration. The American people deserve the truth, and phony news is being compiled and delivered to them by politically correct, total loser journalists. Pardon me. I shouldn't have called them journalists. I'm going to call them cowards. And some, as I said, reside right here in Magic Valley. And this trip that Trump has taken over to the Middle East, and this morning just leaving Italy and going to Brussels and then back home, this trip has been a very dynamic trip. It's been very historic, and a lot of things have happened and been done that are good for this country and good for the world. But people that can't get some of the cable news outlets, they're not even being told about it, because the journalistic value, which I put in a low self-esteem, is not telling the truth, and they're not giving the American people the whole story. I don't know how to solve this problem. For one, I can't solve what's going on at CBS and NBC and ABC and some of these other so-called outlets. All I can do is denigrate them to the point where I hope enough people hear it, and they will start en masse calling the networks and saying, why are you doing this? Or why are you not doing this? It's a pathetic shame what's happened to journalism in this country. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Best audience in the world, come on, get on the phone. I'm going to be talking about that Manchester bomber here in just a minute, and I've got a whole bunch of other stories that link into what happened there. Stand by. Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. Don't forget they have all the equipment to get the job done right. That's right. You need a Bobcat excavator. Woo-hoo. They've got new and used excavators for sale or rent. By golly, all shapes and sizes. And, you know, they've got the Doosan loaders, and they've got also those Walker lawnmowers, 0% interest for 48 months. Mow like the pros do. Equipment rentals, retail equipment sales at Barry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You stop in and see them today. I know somebody else you need to stop in and see, too, and that's Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Got a little pain in your shoulder, Bunky? Or maybe your knee's not working real good, or you had a little accident and you pulled some tendons, maybe even broke a bone? Well, they can help you get back to being you. All you have to do is call for an appointment today at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Nick Greenwell and all the highly qualified physical therapists can and will help you. 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. All right, your calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The Muslim bomber in Manchester, England, and hold on a second, I hear something running. Dan, do we have something running here in the house? He used to stand on the streets and recite the Quran and had all the different parts about killing the infidels and portions of that memorized, and he used to stand out on the street corner and just absolutely yell at the infidels and say how they were going to die, etc. This pathetic person had been to Libya a couple of weeks earlier than what happened at Manchester, and now it's coming out that Libya, this country is a mess. Libya is a total mess. It is turned into a terror training camp paradise. And now it's coming out that he was over there learning how to put everything together. And one point was made this morning. Hold on, caller, I'll be right there. One point was made this morning by a couple of experts that he, this Muslim bomber, probably was not the man that fashioned and put together this bomb. It was someone totally different. The main point that this person made this morning on the news was that anybody that knows the intricacies of how to put together such a devastating bomb, they are not, they being ISIS, going to put or promote him into being the suicide bomber. They want to keep that absolutely pathetic intelligence and probably use it again. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb.
Now go ahead, sir, please.
Just letting you know that that noise you're probably hearing is the construction guys going by your house.
Oh, goody. We can look forward to that for quite some time. I'm just worried about, I know who this is and I appreciate your call. I know that I'm worried about how to get out of my driveway and get to some meetings at noon on time. And I know they've got a job to do, but I do too, and I'm kind of concerned about that.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you that the rumbling you're hearing is probably that, because when I went by there, they were like 200 yards from your house.
Well, I certainly am going to enjoy this, but there again, I'm very appreciative, and I want to let IDOT and everybody else know that I'm very appreciative of the fact that they are fixing a road that was devastated this winter with potholes deep enough to bury a Volkswagen. And so, caller, thank you. You're a dear friend, and I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
All right, sir. Thank you much. Yep, that's what it is. Deanne pointed to the street, and she's right. Hey, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Right now this morning, if you're not aware of it, 3 more accomplices have been arrested in that Manchester bombing. So there you go, right there. I mean, some of the kingpins, perhaps, are starting to finally be filtered through the cracks, and even the bomb makers. So I certainly hope they find these people. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Great Britain, England, right now is under a critical terror alert We're going to be talking about that in just a minute. Ag Express is looking for drivers. That's right, full and part-time positions. Retired folks are welcome, and they'll work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week, whatever works best for you. Hey, you're home every night, new and maintained equipment. They've got great vacation programs and benefit programs, including major medical and dental and vision. You'd better call today. Ag Express, Dale and Paul, 438-8886. Allen in Twin Falls, 731-2495. And Russ and Burley at 431-7175. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Bob. You know, when people talk about something and they think they're actually accomplishing something by their speak, and this has no, this isn't any disrespect to a talk show host whose job is that. But I'm talking about the leaders of Germany, France, and they says, we stand with Manchester. Well, I'll tell you what. Do you think that the parents of the 22 dead children care if Angela Merkel said, we stand with you, as if that meant something?
Yeah. You bring up a lot of good point in just a couple of words. Number one, lip service doesn't save lives. And all it does is just a politician's way of saying, oh, I better get my name out in front that we stand with Manchester or people will think I'm not doing my job. It's nothing more than political lip service, and I look down with great disdain at the people that do nothing more than just provide lip service.
Well, it's just like I ask people. I say, what do you do on Monday morning? And they go, what do you mean, what do I do? And I says, what do you do? Oh, I get up and go to work. And I says, yes. I says, think about all the people that don't get up and go to work because they don't want to. They don't have to. They get away with it. The rest of us are out here grinding away. And I says, is it fair? I says, I don't care if they're whatever color they are. No, it's not. I says, what are you doing about it? No, nothing.
Yeah.
And I says, well, maybe you better get involved. See, this is the thing. When the College of Southern Idaho and the city of Twin and Chobani are pro, and then you never know. All it takes is one.
Yep.
There might be 100 in there that are great. But look what happened.
Well, this is the whole thing right now. Randy, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in my sequence as to how I was going to present the story this morning, but I have personal emails right here on my desk where people have called me Islamophobic. People have called me a bigoted hate monger. All those names they've called me because I've stood up and spoke out about Muslims and Islamic traditions and their ideology that is bent on killing the world that doesn't agree with them. I am not going to change my way. I'm not going to soften my verbiage. I'm going to keep attacking these so-called politically correct leftists who haven't got the common sense God gave a billy goat.
Well, let's just put it this way. If one little thing that you did was to have saved a life, maybe even your grandchildren's lives, God forbid, you would say, well, you can call me anything you want, you lowlife, because you don't do anything anyway. You just talk.
What kind...
I know people that call me at 7 in the morning because they're up and working.
Yeah.
I get up at 4 in the morning. I don't even... I get up at 4 in the morning and I go back to bed.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, we've got to change.
America is hard-working individuals.
We're going to have to change your modus operandi to where you get up and then go back to bed because we get up and have to stay up. So for you to enjoy the better part of any day, I'm going to make it a plan now that I'll do it as a kind of a human kindness. I'll call you to make sure you stay up.
Well, my wife was up, but she couldn't sleep.
Okay.
Okay, see ya.
God bless. Thank you. Randy brought up some really good points. The animosity that's out there by the liberal left, these loons will attack, mostly unnamed, They won't really stand up and call you or talk to you personally face to face, but they're really good at throwing Islamophobic, throwing hate monger, throwing bigot. Look at some of the op-eds that have occurred recently in the Times News. Anybody that disagrees with their refugee program or the support of the refugees and everything, oh, you're a hate monger, you're a bigot, you're this, that, you're Islamophobic. You know, I made it a point a long time ago on this program that I am not going to back up and go down another street because of criticisms by people that I have no respect for. I will not change. Don't forget, Guy Ritter and the crew are celebrating right now, this very day. It started actually the first of the week, the annual Memorial Day sale. Oh my goodness, Serta mattresses, box springs, save a bunch of money. I mean a bunch, with up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit at Retter's Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. You got plans to leave the house today? Well, you better make plans to stop over to Retter's Showcase. Get a good night's sleep. Thanks to Retter's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley, with their annual Memorial Day sale. Don't you miss it. Also want to say and highlight that if you're having some problems hearing, you know, like maybe you're at a baseball game, or maybe you're watching television, or maybe you're at church or something, and what? Hey, what'd he say? What'd he say? Well, hey, listen. Call Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids today. Make an appointment, and the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup will help you. And believe me, it might be something with your medication that's diminished your hearing. It might be something with maybe a disease or something that's going on. You better find out what's diminishing your hearing. Call 312-0957. They're right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, serving you. Don't forget, every Monday I give away at 8:30 delicious cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh my goodness, first-time winners, and boy, they've got a wonderful bakery and a wonderful restaurant. And if you had one of their maple scones, whew, wow, delicious. You be sure and stop over and see them today. Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Really nice people. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Had a call yesterday on my cell phone after the program, and the gentleman said, well, Zeb, why are you so concerned about what's happening way over there in England? And I thought, good heavens, man, get your head out of the sand. What's happening over there is very quite possibly and very short time going to happen here. The Great Britain right now is under a critical terror alert, with many, many threats being investigated as we speak this morning. Katie Hopkins, a journalist from England, was on the news this morning, and she's had it. I've seen this lady on television many, many times, and she was so mad and distraught, and you could see her hands. She had fists made in the white knuckles. She was furious. She said, enough of our children being maimed and killed. Enough of our police officers being stabbed and shot and blown up. And she said, we need right now, on behalf of England, to go after these villains, these losers, and kill them. Now, those are harsh words, but are words that have to be said. I don't know how else you can say it. What are you going to do? You're going to go get them and then lock them up for a couple of days and say, now, don't do this again. We're going to put you through some courses for personality adjustment, and then we're going to turn you loose. But we're going to be watching you. Oh, come on. These people have to be eliminated and obliterated from the face of the earth. And she said, no more protection of Muslims. The gloves are off. You want to live here? You'd better act right. You'd better adhere to our principles. If not, the gloves are off. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I just wonder how soon we will have a similar incident happen in the United States. And, of course, Europe's been overrun, and they've allowed all these so-called refugees in there. Most of them are military-aged men. But what we have to realize, it's not just the radical ISIS. It's Islam. It's the Quran. It has 106 verses that teaches that if we don't convert, they kill.
Yep.
And we have two parts of the jihad. One is population. And look at the mayor of London, a very small minority of Muslims, and he's a Muslim mayor, and he comes out and said, well, these are acceptable losses, in so many words. I mean, yeah, it's acceptable to the Muslims that are trying to conquer the world. They've been trying to do that for 1,400 years. Jefferson sent in the Marines and cleaned out the Barbary pirates, and we need to do the same thing. But we have to realize we're dealing with a theocracy of hatred and killing unless we convert.
Yeah, why don't you...
Until we come to that realization, Zeb, we're just, on the skirmishes. We don't acknowledge the real enemy. The enemy is Islam.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, Adrian. Adrian, wait a minute. Let me jump in. Let me jump in a minute. Let me jump in. How can anybody, whether it's the mayor of Manchester, the mayor anywhere, the prime minister, it doesn't make any difference. How can anyone minimize the deaths of children? The 16, 22, whatever the number of those that died, how can they minimize those deaths when the parents this morning are sitting with funeral directors planning a funeral for a child that they had nurtured and wanted to see grow up? How can anybody minimize the deaths of these children?
Well, it seems like the liberals and obviously those that follow the Quran and Islam, these are acceptable losses. We just have to tolerate it. And, I'm tired of this stuff, and you are too. And yet we keep thinking that, we bring them in here. If we don't, we're bigots.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it, folks. These are trained killers by their ideology, by their theocracy. And unless we learn from history, they're going to kill a lot more Americans, not just British or French or Germans. And it's been going on forever and ever. When are we going to wake up that there is no acceptable losses?
I agree with you.
It's one thing. We've got to be worried about carbon dioxide. We're going to be killed with carbon dioxide. But, killing children and maiming children, that's acceptable? Oh, my gosh. How perverted are these people?
I agree with you. Adrian, I got to do a commercial break, but I can tell the emotion in your voice, the same as in mine. Yesterday, I had a hard time getting through this, talking about young children that'll never see another day because of a sick, perverted ideology that all they want is to rule the world and kill. Thanks, Adrian. I really appreciate your call.
Yeah, that's it. We got to wake up, folks. Muslims will line up right behind these jihadists when push comes to shove. So they may be good neighbors right now, but they get in a majority. They're commanded to follow the Quran and follow their wicked killers and haters. It's a theocracy of hate and killing.
All right, Adrian. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very, very much. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And you know what he just said? You know what Adrian just said is absolutely true because earlier this morning at 4:40 this morning, a gentleman by the name of Al Fadai, a former Muslim, converted now to Christianity, was on television, and I'll tell you a little bit about what he said. I wrote down notes as fast as I could. We'll share that in just a moment. Don't forget Lennox and Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they are offering up to a $1,700 rebate on qualified new Lennox home comfort systems. Woo-hoo! And your home will feel perfect on the inside. No matter what happens, you just give a call to Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Also want to remind you, boy, there are a lot of people that are going to be staying home over the Memorial Day weekend, and I think the wives have said, okay, we're going to take care of this, we're going to do this, we're going to redo some of our front yard, whatever. Well, listen, K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn, they've got all the tools, all the equipment, everything to get the job done. Believe me, they've been in business since 1979, and they say, come on in, we've got everything and all the experience. Hey, K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn, and the number, 678-3122. This gentleman, and he is literally putting his life on the line. You don't just convert away from Islam. He converted to Christianity. His name is Al-Fadai. And this morning, he warned us, the citizens of the United States. And this is not a hate-monger speech or a bigot speech that I'm about ready to deliver. It's fact. And to the liberal loons in the audience that want to twist my words, you go right ahead. But your conscience hopefully will speak to you and say that you're wrong. This gentleman, Mr. Al-Fadai, warned us this morning that Islam's ideology is one of hate and killing. It stated that the Quran teaches killing and a total disrespect for non-Muslims. They're taught to hate. That's not me talking. That was this man on television this morning. A converted Muslim. Don't you think it's about time that we paid attention to who's here, why they're here, and what they've done in the past? Look at what happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It has turned into a major problem. With all the Somali Muslims going into Minneapolis, they've had many horror stories, and many of which have been involved in pre-terrorist acts and pre-terror planning. But the mayor of Minneapolis, Betsy Hodges, you heard me talking about her a week ago. She gave her State of the City address in a mosque yesterday. Reporters that tried to cover it and ask her questions, and one of the questions was, well, listen, how do you feel that you're being fair if you, the liberals, always claim separation of church and state? How come you gave your State of the City address in a mosque? And she brushed by the reporter and wouldn't answer the question. Her city of Minneapolis is in real trouble right now. There are a lot of problems. And yet this pandering for the Muslim vote, that's all it is, in Minneapolis by Betsy Hodges, and she didn't have the decency as an American citizen to answer the questions that were asked of her. And you know what the bulk of the speech was? The bulk of the speech was a complete damning of President Trump and this administration. And it was a complete defiance of this administration going after the bad guys. And she said that we will be a sanctuary city and we will stand up for those that live here, etc. Balderdash. It was nothing more than a liberal loon, Betsy Hodges, pandering for leftist votes. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There is going to be a tremendous horse sale coming up at Jed Jacobs Quarter Horses. Yep, JJ Quarter Horses production sale. It's going to be on June 3rd, and it's going to be up in Sugar City, Idaho. My, oh my, you'd better be there. I mean, roping horses, working horses, ranch horses, barrel racing horses. Some of the best bloodlines in the quarter horse industry are going to be featured at this sale. This is one you do not want to miss. These are good using horses. JJ Quarter Horses production sale, June 3rd up in Sugar City, Idaho. For more information, call Jed Jacobs at 390-4144. Jade Stoddard at 308-3885. Going to be a good one. JJ Quarter Horses production sale. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please, don't be intimidated. Give us a call. We'd like to hear what your opinions are. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, this freedom of religion, what does it really mean anymore?
Well, you give me your answer. Don't just give me your thoughts on this. Go ahead.
Well, your freedom of religion only matters what you say in public. You know, do you declare that Muslim is a terrible religion or anything like that? Because if you did convert to the Muslim religion, there is no way out. Your freedom of religion is ended right there.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Keith, and I've got other callers waiting, but I want to get a quick response from you. If you stood out on the street corner, and whether you're a Methodist, a Mormon, a Lutheran, a Catholic, whatever, and we're saying, God bless America, and please come to the church of your choice and celebrate freedom of religion in this country, pretty soon somebody would come over and tell you to shut up. And today, if you go out and criticize Islam and Muslims, boy, they get a free pass. And I'm sick and tired of a free pass in America when others are stymied and shut down.
Well, me too. I belong to a religion that has been scorned and everything for years and years before people realized that everybody has to live.
Absolutely. Keith, you bring up some good points always. I've got another call and then a weather forecast. So thank you, sir. God bless you and Nancy. Thanks so much.
You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. You know, I'm going to use the term liberal losers. They're just absolute losers. They've lost their morals. They've lost their beliefs in God. You can't murder babies and believe in the Lord. You can't murder people and believe in the Lord. It just makes no sense to me.
You know, Jerry, you really bring up some good points here. The Democratic platform, and I have asked them, you've heard me on the air, you listen every day. I have asked Democrats locally and statewide to come on my program and explain their platform, explain their beliefs, and they have literally hung up the phone on me. That's a real professional attitude when you're trying to get them on the air in a professional discussion and find out what their beliefs are. But they didn't have the courage, they didn't have the backbone, they didn't have the character to come on this program. They hung up the phone.
You know why they do that, don't you? Because they're so proud of their beliefs, they don't want anybody to know what they are.
Well, I don't know about that aspect, but I'm just telling you that they're always clamoring and saying that they're the better party and that they've got great ideas and that they want to clean up the entirety of the United States. But when asked in a fairness situation to come on this program, they put their tail between their legs like they're accustomed to and run and hide.
Well, they've been doing that ever since you've been on the air. I can remember many years ago you used to, in fact, you had that Mexican guy, I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
On with you, and they were running, hiding then, and he was there, and he was a liberal.
Yeah, I invited him on, and then all he did is go into a diatribe of hate. And I figured if that's what their platform is all about, good heavens, thank goodness that we have another viewpoint. But I have asked certain leaders of the Democratic Party here locally and then also statewide, and it's really interesting. One lady in particular, she picked up the phone and said, I wouldn't come on your program at any time. Bang, slammed down the phone. That's a real professional attitude.
Well, I've kind of got that attitude towards the Times News now, so
okay.
I guess I've got one too. Anyway, I'll get out of your way. You have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless you.
All right, Jerry. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good friend. Good friend. Time for the weather, and the weather's brought to you by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley, along with Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies, the everyday things that can happen, slipping down a flight of stairs or maybe cutting yourself or getting a sprain or a strain, whatever. Minor emergencies. Major Care. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. You remember to stop in and see them. They're open 7 days a week. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. We are looking at sunny skies for today, but it's going to be windy. We are having a wind advisory that is going to be in effect from noon today until about 9 o'clock tonight. Wind steady out of the west, 20 to 30 miles an hour, gusts possible of 40+. Other than that, high of 72. Tonight, low of 41. Tomorrow, winds dying down. Looks like sunny skies, high of 67 with an overnight low of 44. And then partly to mostly sunny skies and 65 as we kick off the weekend. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And I appreciate it, Gina, brought to everybody by the Riverview Urgent Care Center in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Kyle James and his wonderful professional staffs at all 3 locations have hit a home run serving you. Minor emergencies, major care. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, tomorrow at 9:15 on our program, on Thursdays, we always have a segment called It's Time to Grow with University of Idaho horticulturalist Tony McCammon. And tomorrow we're going to talk about trees, one of his favorite subjects and one of mine, trees and the care of trees. So don't forget that at 9:15 tomorrow morning. It's time to grow. Thank you. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Do you know that I saw this in the paper the other day, and then I heard it again last night on the news? Over 600,000 foreigners, 600,000 foreigners have overstayed their visas here in the United States, and many of them we don't know where they are. This is ridiculous. 600,000 people are here, and they've overstayed their visas, whether they're good, bad, ugly, or criminal intent or not. We don't know where they are. Holy cow. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. To deviate a little bit from what we're doing, your commercial that you just had about Riverview Instant, emergent care or urgent care.
Yes.
Boy, these are the real deal. When I was in Las Vegas last winter, I hit something and split my head open. It was going to require some stitches. And I went to 4 of those urgent cares in Las Vegas before I finally gave up and went to the emergency room. I was never treated so rudely in my life as these people did. And we are so lucky in this area to have a place like the Riverview Urgent Care, because they are the real deal.
Well, I'm sure that Kyle would appreciate that.
And I went there for a shot. It's just, they're just a wonderful addition to our neighborhood.
That's really nice to say, and there's nothing better for any kind of an advertisement when you have a testimonial by somebody that really cares, somebody that has done that, and somebody that has been there. And I tell you what, Kyle James should be very happy to hear that. Thank you. I appreciate that, Keith. God bless. Thank you, sir. You can't do any better than get a testimonial like that. Let me tell you something. That is really, really valuable. You know, my dear friend, and she is Brigitte Gabriel. And there have been those on the left. There have been those in Twin Falls. There have been those around the country that have diminished and demeaned her with her Act for America. But you know something? This lady has lived and seen and witnessed what the Islamic ideology can do and will do and is trying to do. And she has come out and been very forthright about why we should be very, very skeptical about, little by little, inch by inch, the promotion of Sharia law by the Muslims in America. There have been the scoffers. There have been those where you really listen to what they say and you have to question their intelligence because they live in a utopian world of liberalness where they think anything like Sharia law being implemented, it can never happen here. Why, goodness sakes, it can. And there are so many things to worry about how Sharia law is incompatible with American law. And people need to know there are vast differences. I honestly couldn't believe this here about 5-6 days ago. I was listening to a newscast, and they were asking, here we go again with the younger generation, these kids at the college, and I think it was Rutgers, but I'm not going to point the finger at Rutgers because I'm not exactly sure. But they were asking them about, well, how do you feel about possibly the implementation of some of Islamic Sharia law being implemented here in our court system in America? Well, first and foremost, these kids didn't have a clue. They were probably 21, 22 years of age. They didn't have a clue. And then some of them piped up and said, well, why not? It'd be fairness for all people. They failed to realize our court system, our judicial system, absolutely is the best system of anywhere in the world. And when you start bringing in something like Sharia law totally incompatible with American law, you're talking about adding gas to the fire that could burn and consume our Constitution and our laws. I'll give you a couple of examples here. That when a person leaves Islam, they're called an apostate. Take them and slay them where you find them. Remember I told you about Al-Fadai earlier this morning, a former Muslim that converted to Christianity? That's what he's worried about right now. He is very afraid for his life because they are told through Sharia law, take them and slay them where you find them. That's in the Quran. And also, those who malign Allah and His Messenger will be seized for slaughter. So those that say anything against Allah, they are put to a death penalty. And this is part of Sharia law. And the idiocy and incompetency of people that don't understand what they're talking about. Oh, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, bring it on. Who cares? Total stupidity. I'm just giving you a couple of examples right there. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Les Schwab Tire Centers, Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Man, they're so good. They're so busy, and rightfully so, because they're so good serving you. Absolutely. You know, they've got the best of your tires, whether you need pickup tires, SUV tires, passenger car tires. They've got all the different tread designs, all the sizes. I mean, really, why go anywhere else? You need to go in and talk to the best. Absolutely, and that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Where doing the right thing matters, whether it's front-end alignments, shocks and struts, batteries, or their excellent brake service. And they've got 7 great locations right here in the Magic Valley. Lane in Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Simply put, they're the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I appreciate all your calls this first hour. And coming up for the rest of today, we have at 9:06 my good buddy Dave Bego. We're going to be talking about a lot of things political, the Trump trip to the Middle East, and also the walkout at Notre Dame University. We're going to be talking to also at 9:30 Dave Cole. He is going to be talking about the disconnect of churches and pastors here in the United States. 10:06, we've got Richard Manning, President for Americans for Limited Government, and then at 10:31, Brian Crabtree. What happened to the Democratic National Staffer Seth Risch? Why was he killed? What happened? A lot of questions out there. Don't forget, coming up on May 27th, this Saturday, the 3rd annual Idaho Roll Call Memorial Ride, sponsored by the Rupert Veterans Memorial, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, and the City of Rupert. Bikers are going to meet at Let's Ride in Rupert at 9:30, have a really good, fun ride, and then everybody's going to go to the Idaho Roll Call Monument at 7th and Scott Streets in Rupert for the memorial program and a little bit of lunch at 1 p.m. For more information, contact George Mass at 650-0104. Going to take a break for about 7 minutes. Wheels, take it away. We'll be back in just a few. Okay, good morning on a Wednesday, May the 24th, and a windy morning. It's clear skies and blue skies and sunshine out there, but a little windy. Hold on to your resistol. Put your Stampede strings on. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, really, these are the nicest people to work with, the most professional. They're very loyal to the community and people that they serve. I urge you to call them at 734-6969. Get on the route service and get rid of your garbage. Yep, they're almost, you could set your watch by the service. I mean, they're on time every week. And goodbye garbage. They take care of it. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Wonderful people. Hey, don't forget, on Mondays at 9:15, Vicky's Country Garden. Oh, my goodness, that lovely Vicky. She's on at 9:15. And don't forget, celebrating 20 years in business, and they've got all the bark and the rock and the yard art and the trees and the shrubs for this Memorial Day if you want to kind of spruce up your place a little bit, and all your gardening needs right there at Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. You stop in and see her today. You know, some other folks that I got to tell you, I've been so blessed to have them on this program, I think almost for, the last 9-10 years. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, the manager, family, staff, serving you and your family. There is no lonelier feeling than when a loved one passes away and you really don't know what to do or what needs to be done. They can and they will help you, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please call them today and learn more. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, don't forget Relay for Life coming up on June 10th from 11 in the morning till 11 at night at the Burley High School. Relay for Life, and believe me, very important that we fight the dreaded diseases from cancer. Don't forget to our friends at Ark Animal Hospital. You know, it's really, really important, and I said this yesterday, and a lady called me after the show, and she said, thank you for reminding me about taking my dog into Ark Animal Hospital for that parvovirus shot. Believe me, parvovirus, highly contagious viral infection that can kill puppies and dogs. So please call, make an appointment, 678-1177. 678-1177. Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street in Hayburn. Warm hearts for cold noses. Well, I don't know if his nose is cold or not, but I'll guarantee you one thing. He's a pretty sharp guy, and that's Dave Vigo back in Indianapolis, Indiana. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Zeb, except when they first put me through and I started, first thing you said is we'll have garbage piling up here pretty soon. I thought you were talking about me.
Dave, I hold you in the highest of respect for your attitude, your opinions. I would never, ever lower my standards and lower my appreciation for you. You've been a faithful listener and caller on this program, and I thank you. Just in the last 10 minutes, Deanne handed me a note regarding Judge Gorsuch and also the United States Supreme Court and Islam. And, you know, I got to tell you, Dave, after what I saw the other day on television, I sat down, and I'm not ashamed to tell you this or anyone listening on the audience, I sat down and cried after I saw what happened over in Manchester, England, with the bombing of these children inside a musical concert. They were doing nothing wrong. It was a wholesome attitude, and everything was perfect about it. Parents waiting outside for their kids, and then a Muslim bomber destroyed the lives of 22 families with deaths and 59 others with injuries. I am sickened by this.
Well, yeah, and this tells you all you need to know about who these people are and what their objectives and agenda are, and it's truly sad. I mean, you really have to, your prayers and hearts have to go out to these people, and I'm sure that ISIS, they're in a situation where they're desperate and they're going to do things like this, especially when Trump is over in the Mideast, bringing everybody together to fight them and that, and I think we're going to see them do things like this. It's, as I've said before, desperate people do desperate things, and that's kind of the same way the unions are in this country, fighting Trump and the far left, and it's going to be sad as Trump moves along and does these different things across this country and across the world. You're going to have the real radicals do bad things, and it's sad. Everybody needs to keep their eyes open all the time.
Dave, I don't know how much you watch television. I don't know what your favorite newscast is, but I can tell you this, that CBS, ABC, and NBC, they did not do their job. They didn't do any due diligence to President Trump over on this Mideast trip. They didn't cover any of his speeches. They didn't do anything. All they ran in place of that was more anti-Trump stories. The liberal media in this country is absolutely slovenly, and they should all be fired for the way they've treated this president.
Well, yeah, but in a lot of honesty and truth, behind the scenes, they're being intimidated and forced to not say things good about him and or cover good things about him, and then really go after him and attack him when they can. And we're going to continue to see this. And by the way, I meant to back up. The thing I sent you on Gorsuch may not be true. It came to me from my high school basketball coach, who is a true Christian. Okay,
Yeah.
and he sends these things out, and I assumed that since he sent it, it was probably true. But I am getting some fallout that it may be a false story, and so take it with a grain of salt until I've got people researching it right now.
Well, the thing is, the basic concepts of the story are relatively true in all regard, because there is a very consistent showing by the liberal left in this country to let Muslims and Islamic attitudes prevail, but there's a downplaying and absolutely a concentration against Christianity in this country. So the basics of this story are relatively true.
Well, they are, and part of the Alinsky tactics in bringing down this country and turning it into a communist, socialistic country, same tactics are used by some of the unions like the SEIU and other people on the far left, Soros. One of their main agendas is to eliminate religion and God in this country. And from that standpoint, the article I sent
Absolutely.
it does make a lot of sense. But I want to make sure that it's historically correct, and we're doing research on that right now.
Well, I appreciate that, but basically the concepts and the parameters of the story are already being they've already been verified, because it's happened so many times in our country and other countries. But one thing I want to mention is that after that bombing, and after the horrific 22 killed, 59 injured, and now this morning they came out and they said that Great Britain is under a critical terror alert with many more threats being investigated. These people are scared. These people have a right to worry, but yet the government is shining on the situation and downplaying it. There should be an all-out full court press right now to get rid of these troubles and get rid of the troublemakers.
Well, I agree, and as I say in my book, you have to stand up with backbone and punch the bully in the nose, and that's what a lot of unfortunately, a lot of politicians are afraid to do, and when they're not afraid to stand up and do that, the citizens of the country pay for it. And I wish they would over in England and all of Europe and in the Mideast. And I'm glad to see Trump's doing it, because there may be some backlash for a while, but at the end of the day, we win the war based on what Trump's doing.
Speaking of Donald Trump, and I've got to get into this with you a little bit, I watched and I wanted to be very highly critical, but yet fair, of everything that he did or didn't do, everything that he said or didn't say on this trip. And I'm going to be very frank with you. There were a lot of holes in the screen door of Donald Trump that I didn't know if I could support as President of the United States. But I'm going to say this, and I don't care who's offended by it. I think that what he has done over in the Middle East on this trip, the way he has conducted himself, and especially the verbiage that he used in speeches at Saudi Arabia and then also in Israel, was absolutely, it needed to be said. It was said very professionally. And I think he has really acted presidential on this trip.
Well, I agree with you, and that's what we need him to do. And when he comes back to this country, he needs to continue that, and because that way he will begin to get people to move to his side and support him, and he'll be able to defeat these people that are going after him the way they are. Because as I've told you, Zeb, when I fought the SIU, they did the same types of things to me, coming after me and trying to smear me and saying how bad a person I am and all that kind of stuff. And when you do and you handle it professionally, you address it professionally, and stand up, they tend to back down and go away, and that's what he needs to continue to do. So I hope he does.
And I had that personally happen back in 2007 with the first time around for Barack Obama, and the liberal loons on the left, they came after and attacked me, tried to hang the racist tag on me, and for quite some time. And I know from my standpoint it was very mind-wearying, and you get tired of it, and you almost want to say, I don't need this. But I fought back, and these losers on the left, they went back under their rocks, and they never came out again.
Yep, and that's exactly, what people need to do. That's what our Republican Party and conservatives need to do. They need to come together and gain some backbone and quit doing things for votes so they can stay in their jobs in Washington. That they need to do the right things for this country and stand up and do it professionally. Not be outlandish like the left is. And if they do that, we can turn this country around and bring God back into it, and that's really what we need to do.
I agree with you. I got to ask you, Mike Pence, the vice president, and he delivered the commencement address at Notre Dame University. Now, I agree that the numbers compared to all the people that were there, 100 people walking out on his speech, it wasn't that great a magnitude of numbers. However, it showed complete disrespect for the Vice President of the United States. And I wonder of those students that got up and walked out during their commencement address, if maybe somewhere down the road, 10, 15, 20 years, they're not going to look back and say, what a tragic mistake I made. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that's true, but the thing about Notre Dame is it's a fairly liberal area, and it doesn't surprise me it happened. And, Zeb, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out down the road that these kids were paid to do that.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. We also have a caller with a question for you, Dave, so go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Dave. What do you think the chances are of the Republicans getting a budget passed with all this hatred going on?
All right, we'll have him respond to that on the air.
Scenario, but again, they're going to have to come together and stand up, and and I heard one person talking about it from Trump's campaign this morning a little bit, that they weren't doing it to hurt people, they were doing it to help people, because what we want to do is move people off welfare and entitlement programs and get them jobs and help them grow and the economy to grow and for them to grow through life. And that's really what it's all about. People have to understand that, in this thing, in eliminating entitlements and, food stamps and stuff like that, it isn't that they are trying to be nasty to these people and not take care of these people. They're trying to eliminate the left's stranglehold on these people, because the left does this and puts all these things into place so that they've got a stranglehold on these people, and these people feel committed to them and will vote for them all the time.
Yeah. Dave, when President Trump returns home, and he's going to Brussels right now, he's probably in Brussels by now. He left early this morning from Italy after a visitation with the Pope. When Trump comes home, what would your advice be to Trump as far as he's going to come up against a liberal biased media that's going to try to downplay any successes? What would you think he ought to do?
Well, Zeb, I think he ought to use some of the stuff that's come out of the Middle East, like the Egyptian president. After he met with Trump, he immediately, made an announcement that it was a great meeting and that, he believes Trump's the type of person that can do great things. And I think he has to emphasize all the positives he had with his meetings in Saudi Arabia and, with the Pope and Israel and all that, because what we see is people over there coming together, and he has to point that out. For the first time in a long time, we've got people coming together to do the right things and settle their differences.
This trip to the Middle East, and maybe you won't agree on this, but this is the way I feel. The trip to the Middle East and the 5 stops that he made with his lovely wife, I think was at a very critical time. I think what it did, in layman's terminology, is kind of took him out of Dodge City for a while, and now with the successes that he had on this Middle Eastern trip and the high praise from the country's leadership, and now coming back home, I think it basically helped sweep a lot of the mess that was being thrown up in the air under the carpet, at least for a while. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think it will, but they're going to come back and they're going to start their attacks again, and they're going to find other things. It's what they do, Zeb, and it's unfortunate they have to be like that. But again, even as you said, when you stand up and have some backbone and professionally address them and expose their misinformation and lies in a professional way, they tend to crawl back under their rocks. And that's what we need, and that's what he's got to continue to do. And I hope he comes back with that whole agenda of handling it that way in mind.
What about health care? What about the budget? What about our national security? I think right now, with what happened in England, I myself personally would very much support a resurgence of a Muslim ban until we know exactly who these people are and what purpose they want to come to this country. I think all of these things right now are extremely important. What are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to immigration, I think it's real simple. We're a nation of laws. And anybody that wants to come into this country has to go through the process and be vetted. And our government needs to do an outstanding job in vetting them and to make sure that whether they're from the Mideast or someplace else or they're Muslim, that they meet all the criteria to get into this country. And, if they do the checks they should, they'll find this stuff out. And that needs to be done.
Absolutely. You mentioned about our borders, etc. I've got mixed emotions right now on the wall per se, but I think that if we absolutely put forth an effort with our military, be it our National Guard, whatever, on that border, right now, a show of force to say to all the countries of the world, we honor our citizens, we honor the taxpayers, and we're going to make sure that we keep our integrity as a nation, and we're going to close down the southern border. I think Trump is going to hit a home run if he stands with that attitude, not necessarily with the wall.
Oh, I agree. And, as I wrote in the blog a couple of years ago, I think we ought to just turn it over to our military. And, between our Army and Air Force and Marines and everybody, they'll close that thing down. People will be afraid to come across, and it'll protect our country. It'll bring jobs back. It'll raise wages and do great things for this country.
Let me ask you a final thought here, Dave, in regards to what the Minneapolis mayor, Betsy Hodges, did over yesterday. She delivered her State of the City address in Minneapolis from a Muslim mosque. And when asked about that by many news reporters, especially one from Fox News, she walked away and wouldn't give the answer because the liberals are always preaching separation of church and state, and here she goes to a mosque pandering for votes for a re-election, and that's okay. What are your thoughts quickly, and then we'll take a call?
That's what they do. It's not do as I say, it's do as I say, not as I do, and they go over there and, as you said, pandering for votes. That's what it's all about.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, please. Caller, speak to me. Go ahead, please.
A quick question for your guest. I feel that some of the people on his staff need to be gone. What does your guest feel about that?
That's kind of an open-end question, but Dave, what about some of the staff members of the Trump administration? Do they need to have another cleaning of house, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think first Trump needs to clean up how he addresses his staff, and he comes out and says things and does things without informing his staff, and that puts him in a tough position in that. And I think that before he does that, he has to make sure his staff, that he's communicated to them and they're on board, and then if they go out and communicate the wrong things and do the wrong things, then I think he needs to start addressing that and looking at his staff. And I do think there's some in there that probably will still struggle, but I think you have to clean up how you move the information down the line first, and you keep your people informed.
I agree. Dear friend, back in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I certainly hope we can somehow come together this summer and shake hands and really get to know each other on a first-hand basis. Dave Bego, thank you so much. God's blessings, and we'll talk to you next week.
Can I say two things real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Number one, today is the 28th anniversary of my company, Executive Management Services, so it's a big day for us. And number two is I had a visitor in my office a couple days ago. I sent you pictures via text of a jacket he was wearing, and when he opened up the inside of it, it had Cub logos all over the inside. And he sent me the people that makes them, and I think you ought to look at getting something made for yourself.
I will, David, and I forgot to say thank you for those pictures. Thank you very much. My Cubs are kind of being so-so right now, but they're hanging in and hanging on, and I think they'll be a contender at the end of the year. God bless you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great week.
All right, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it very much. Good friend, great guy, and a very astute businessman, and I offer congratulations for all the years that he's been in business. Does an excellent job. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, and they're offering up to $1,700 in rebates on qualifying new Lennox home comfort systems. All you've got to do is just get a hold of them. Call them at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. Also want to say thank you very much right now to Redder's Showcase. Do you know what's going on at Redder's? Oh, my goodness. When they open the door in the morning, they're saying, oh, wow, it's our annual Memorial Day sale, and it's going on right now. Oh, my goodness. Super money-saving buys at Redder's on Serta mattresses and box springs. Listen to this, 12 months same as cash on approved credit. Get in the car, turn it on, and race over to Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley for their big, I mean really big, annual Memorial Day sale. Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. Really nice people. In just a moment, we're going to have Dave Cole on our program, and I'm looking forward to visiting with him. And right now, I also want to tell you about some friends of mine that do a wonderful job protecting you. Yeah. Insurance people, professionals, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more with a personal touch. The professional touch, taking care of you and your family and your business. Call them today and make an appointment at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really good people. Oh, boy, when you say good people, that leads me right into the next one, and that's, of course, my friends over at Let's Ride. Vroom, 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 get your motor running. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. All the ATVs, all the four-wheelers, all the side-by-sides, all the watercraft. You need to get outside and just see what God created here in Idaho. It is beautiful. That's right. Stop into Let's Ride today. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4, and they would love to help you with all the accessories, and they got a great service department too. Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. You stop over and see them today. Right now, let's go to the phone line. I got to get my papers straightened out here, and we have with us a man. I don't think he's ever been on my program before, and I'm looking forward to having him on the show here this morning. He is an author and culture analyst, and he's the author of the book, What the Church Can Learn from Harley Davidson. This ought to be interesting. Good morning to Dave Cole. How are you?
Doing great, Zeb. Great to be on the show with you.
Well, you are also the Associate Network Leader and Assistant Superintendent at Northwest Ministry Network. My goodness, you've got a lot of titles. Tell us a little bit about that last one, being a Assistant Superintendent. Give us a little background on that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I pastored a church for 20 years in East Wenatchee, and then the constituency voted me in 15 years ago. We have about 325 churches that cover Washington and northern Idaho, and so I help to oversee that. We have about 1,400 ministers that are a part of our network. So it's a great opportunity for me to help train, coach, and lead our pastors to be outward focused.
Dave, I'm going to say some things this morning. I hope won't offend you, but I'm very blunt and honest. And if I do say something that offends you, you can make a rebuttal. I think churches today, and I'm just kind of making this an all-encompassing statement, I think churches today and the various aspects of religion in the churches is not being handled correctly. I don't think they're being forceful enough. I don't think they're being dynamic enough. I don't think the pastors on the pulpit are doing their job. I think that's one of the reasons why church attendance and congregations are lessened today than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. How would you respond to a statement by that?
Well, your statement is fairly general. I do think that we have to separate, what we're talking about. Are we talking their views on the scriptures, or are we talking about the current political situation that we're in?
I think all of the
what made Harley Davidson great is they decided in 1981 to go back to what are the main reasons why we exist. And I think the church needs to get back to that question. Why do we exist? And what is Jesus calling for the church today?
Right. I think when you said it was a general statement, but actually I think they're linked together. I think the actual study of the scriptures and the promoting of the scriptures and also the political scene today and what's happening, they are definitely linked hand in hand, and I don't think that a lot of ministers and leaders of churches are doing their job. Go ahead from there.
Well, I would agree with you that I think we have a challenge in our nation with our churches. Studies show that 65% of our churches are either plateaued or declining. So what that tells me is there seems to be a disconnect with a lot of our churches when it comes to culture and being around people that are part of the American culture. Of course, there's multiple cultures within the American culture. And so the challenge in my book is that we need to get involved. We need to get involved in our communities. We need to start building relationships with people that are not like us. And I really think that's where it begins, is on a personal relationship. And if all our pastors were doing that, all our churches were doing that, I think you would see a difference in the tone of what's going on in our nation.
I agree with your statement entirely, and I'd like to learn more about the Harley Davidson tie-in to this story and also your book. So share that with me, would you please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Harley Davidson is a company that's been around as long as the religious organization that I've been a part of. Actually, they began in 1901 and started the corporation out of a garage in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Out of that, in 1903, the first motorcycle was created, and they've made it through some difficult times, made it through World War I, World War II, and in late 70s, they came close to bankruptcy, and American Machinery Foundry bought them, and they were, massively in debt. And so it wasn't until early 1980s when Willie G. Davidson, 12 senior executives, raised $100 million, and they bought the struggling enterprise from AMF.
No.
What they did is, this was back when the Japanese motorcycle phenomena was going on, and Honda was about ready to, just take the market.
Mm-hmm.
These executives went over to Japan. They looked at the market, saw that there was no way they could compete, came back and began to ask some difficult questions. Why do we exist? And what do we have to offer? And the first thing they came up with is we have our patented thunderous sound.
Yep.
And that's part of what's made us great. Secondly, we have the ability to create older, custom-looking bikes that are brand new, but they have that older look that Americans are wanting.
This whole story about...
if you want me to go on, how that correlates with the church is I believe the church needs to get back to the main thing.
Absolutely.
What is the main thing? The main thing is, for Davidson, it was getting back to the product and having the main thing be those two things. For the church, it's getting back to Jesus.
Absolutely.
And to challenge people to have a relationship with Jesus. And what the church has tried to do, I think, for many years is we've tried to make the church the main thing, whereas it's really, if you look at the Gospels, it's about a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Dave, you and I are on the same page here. And what happened to our churches? Was it something because of the 60s? What happened so that all of a sudden they really got away from the main message of Christ's kindness and love one another as you'd love yourself? What happened to the churches that they got away from the message?
You know, Zeb, this will happen to any organization. I've done a lot of research on corporate organizations, and it's happened in the church. What happens is gradually the culture of an organization will move into mission fog or mission drift because they become inward focused. And over the process of time, these organizations end up spending more time, more resources and energy to keep the members of the organization happy, and they lose sight of why they exist in the first place. The church has always been commanded by Christ to go out, but yet we have this concept we need to stay within our four walls and hold the fort, and unfortunately 65% of our churches they're losing ground, and part of my role is I end up closing churches, and it's sad. I want to see that trend stop, and I want to help leaders start becoming outward focused.
Let me ask you this, Dave, and again, this may step on some people's toes that are listening, but so be it. I honestly feel that today many pastors and church leaders from behind the pulpit, they're so worried about political correctness, they get away from the actual prophecy and the absolute word of God, and they try to minimize it just to be politically correct. And I'm not going to back up from that statement.
Well, I agree with you. I think we need to stand up for what the Word of God says. And one of the things that Harley Davidson has done a great job in is they do not put people in groupings like our society tends to do. In our society, you're either liberal or you're conservative. You're either for the LGBTQ or you're a hater. And you can go on, and we have created in our society an either-or type of spirit. And that needs to change because, Harley has shown over the years that when somebody comes through the door, if you have a 1%er outlaw biker come through the doors of Harley Davidson, that person is treated with the same amount of respect and love as we call them rubs, a rich urban biker would have when they come through the doors. But what Jesus did in the Gospels is he didn't stereotype people. He would look at that person as an individual created in the image of God. Yes, the Bible says we've all sinned, we've all come short of the glory of God, but Christ would always approach that person with dignity and respect, and we've lost that. In America, and I'm afraid the churches are losing that.
One of these segments of our society, and over at the station, Wheels, you're going to have to ride the gain and turn it up a lot higher than what you are, please. One of the segments that we have to get back in religion, and especially in the various churches, are the younger generation. And I guarantee you, I know I'm right on this, that if we let this system go the way it is and not try to offer a welcoming back to the church from the younger generation, churches will die on the vine. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree, Zeb. You know, I've got millennial kids and son-in-laws now, and I've got grandkids, and I'm really concerned. Now, fortunately, my kids love the church, and they're in a couple of outward-focused churches, and people are getting baptized in water, you know, on a regular basis. So I'm happy for that. But, you know, I get around to a lot of churches that it's a bunch of old people in the room. And if that's the case, you know, the Lord definitely wants a place for senior citizens like myself and others. But we really need to figure out how to reach the millennials, because they are leaving the churches in grove numbers.
You know, and we have so many negative alternatives that are out there and available to the younger generation today, one of which is a deluge of anti-Christian attitudes every single night on the so-called sitcoms on primetime TV. Hollywood and television in general is absolutely turned into a cesspool. How would you address that?
Well, I think you're right on, and if we as Christian leaders don't start standing up and being bold and building relationships in our community, most people will never have a friend who is a Christian. So they're going to believe whatever they hear on the radio, whatever they see on sitcoms, and they'll make their own perceptions of who Christians are. Christians are awesome people for the most part, but if we keep this hidden, if we keep Christ within us hidden, we're going to have some real challenges moving forward.
Dave, I know that this is a question that a lot of people don't want to really go in depth on, but on my program, I absolutely will. The Islamic ideology seems to be purveying itself much more in this United States than ever before at the expense of Christianity. And it looks like the liberal left is really in a promotion mode of Islam and Muslim activities over and above whether you're Methodist, Lutheran, or Episcopalian. It doesn't make any difference. It seems like they want to give preference to Islam. How are we going to overcome this?
Well, I think as Christian leaders, we've got to stand up and really ask for the freedom of religion. And of course, when America was created as a nation, that freedom of religion extended even beyond Christianity. It extended to the Masonic, which a number of our leaders were a part of. It extended to other faiths. And so I think the freedom of religion is important. What's not being said on the news is that there are a number of wonderful people who are Islamic. And the way that Jesus said is we need to go into all the world and tell them about this gospel. So I've been in Turkey as recently as October, and I've found many people that are Islamic. They're people like you and I. They want the best for their families. Unfortunately, they have extremists that have taken this too far.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, when people buy the book, What the Church Can Learn from Harley Davidson, what do you want them to take away from the book when they read the last page and close the cover?
I want them to know that they can share this message of Christ wherever they go. And it's really a challenge. You know, on our bike trips, I've been across the nation twice, just did a coast-to-coast run this summer, and I've met some wonderful people. My book talks about different experiences we've had in talking to them. People are open to talking about Jesus. I find they get a little nervous when you talk about the church, so I try to find common ground. And it's a challenge to Christians. Quit being in a cocoon. Quit showing up at church thinking that's the place you're going to witness. They're not going to come inside those four walls unless they have a relationship. So let's get out and let's be bold enough to let people know what we believe. These Islamic extremists have no problem being bold. I think it's time that we as believers, we better stand up and we better be bold, or things could look pretty glim for the church in the future.
I agree. What about the book itself? What the church can learn from Harley Davidson? Where can the public, obtain a copy?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, and so they can go on Amazon, and it's in both printed form and Kindle. They can also go to my website, which is outwardfocusnetwork.com, if leaders would like to know more about what I do and the training that we offer. And so outwardfocusnetwork.com.
I'll tell you what, Dave, I'm going to ask you to come back in the future. I certainly hope you will, and thank you for being on my program this morning.
Thank you, Zeb. It's been a pleasure, and I'd love to come back. I love your whole venue there, and that you are pro cattlemen and pro horses, and I just happen to ride an iron horse.
All right, sir. God bless you, and I mean that. Have a great day, and I'll call in the future to have you back again. Dave Cole, the author of What the Church Can Learn from Harley Davidson, and I really enjoyed having him on the show this morning. Right now, we're going to do a weather forecast, get that taken care of, and oh my goodness, these are really some top professionals going in our area, and that's Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They've been in business providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. You know, the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, payroll services, retirement planning, you name it, they can help you. If you're an aspiring business owner, they can give you a lot of advice and help you about hiring employees, selling or exchanging business assets, whatever. Please get a hold of them today. In Burley and Rupert, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. We are looking at sunny skies for today, but it's going to be windy. We are having a wind advisory that is going to be in effect from noon today until about 9 o'clock tonight. Wind steady out of the west, 20 to 30 miles an hour, gusts possible of 40+. Other than that, high of 72. Tonight, low of 41. Tomorrow, winds dying down. Looks like sunny skies, high of 67 with an overnight low of 44. And then partly to mostly sunny skies and 65 as we kick off the weekend. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. And brought to everyone this hour by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company CPAs. Locations at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. You get a hold of them today. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd sure appreciate it if you give me a call. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories that we've carried so far this morning. One thing I want to say this morning, and I've said this in the past, and I'm going to say it again. As long as this program's on the air, I am not going to hedge. I'm not going to mollycoddle. I'm not going to be politically correct about any and all of the stories that we present on this show. I'm going to give you my opinion. That's what this show is about. It's an opinion talk show with honest evaluation and honest facts of the story as we present them. Therefore, I ask and encourage you folks to call. This is a format where you can call and share your opinions. Even if you don't agree with me, I welcome those opinions. And the left, the liberal left, and the Democrats have had that offered to them for many, many times on many circumstances, but they failed to do so. But therefore, I just want to make the point that we're going to say and have stories and different entertaining points of interest that might not soothe everybody and make them happy. That's good. We're going to create some thought, stimulate some thought, and I appreciate your phone calls. So give us a call right now at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Wheels, after the program today, give me a call. It just doesn't sound the way it normally does on the air, and I want to talk to you about that a little bit, so give me a call later on this morning, if you would, please. I don't know if you're having some problems over there or what, but it's a lot different. I want to remind everybody again about what's going on this Saturday. It is the third annual Roll Call Memorial Ride, sponsored by the Rupert Veterans Memorial, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, that's a great bunch of people, and the City of Rupert. And all the bikers are going to meet at Let's Ride in Rupert at 9:30 on Saturday morning for a ride to support the fallen soldiers. And then after the ride, everybody's going to meet at the Idaho Roll Call Monument at 7th and Scott in Rupert for the memorial program and some real good food at 1 p.m. So don't forget, for more information, contact George Mass at 650-0104. Also, coming up in a matter of days, it's right around the corner, the 31st annual Mini-Cassia Auto Collectors Car Show is going to be at the Cassia County Fairgrounds on June 3rd and 4th. And I'll tell you what, my old buddy Jimmy Flowers is going to be on the air with us next week, and we're going to be talking about this car show. I mean, they really go all out, and they've got the best of Corvettes and Mustangs and street rods, stock originals, modifieds, everything there. You don't want to miss it. And it's going to be June 3rd and 4th at the Cassia County Fairgrounds, the Mini-Cassia Auto Collectors Car Show, and it's the 31st annual. Right there, that 31st annual tells you they have hit a home run with success, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, Jimmy Flowers is going to be on the program with us next week, and we're going to be talking about that great, big, wonderful car show. All right, got time for a call. Give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call, I want to remind you again about Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area. You know, they really care about their residents. They really care about what they do, how they do it, and going to other community events. And they've got a beautiful patio in their backyard. They hold barbecues outside in the summertime. And Autumn Haven invites you, the public, to visit their facility anytime for tours. Check them out. You know what? They are right there at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call and find out more information, 436-3200. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. Oh, my goodness sakes. And coming up next hour, we've got Richard Manning, President for Americans for Limited Government. And then at 10:30 this morning, Brian Crabtree. And two great dynamic guests coming up in the next hour right here on Zeb at the Ranch. As I mentioned to you a little bit ago, don't forget Redder Showcase is having an absolutely huge Memorial Day sale. Yes, sir. At their location at 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. I'm telling you what, you better get on in there. If you want a good night's sleep, well, then they can help provide that with the Serta mattresses and box springs, and listen to this, with up to 12 months, same as cash, on approved credit. All you got to do is just go there. That's right, Redder's Showcase, Guy Redder and the crew at 2611 Overland in Burley for their big Memorial Day sale. You stop in today. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studios, and following the news, we're going to be back with a lot more with our guest coming up next half hour, Richard Manning. Take care. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Oh, my goodness, the wind is blowing outside. They're working on the highway, and we're inside. And telling you this is the third hour of Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them. Get on the route service, 734-6969. Well, Want to remind you before we put our guest on the air, Ag Express is looking for drivers. That's right. All you have to do is call Dale and Paul at 438-8886, Allen in Twin Falls at 731-2495, and Russ in Burley at 431-7175. They're looking for full and part-time positions for drivers. Retired folks are welcome to apply, and you can work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week, whatever's best for you. Home every night, new and maintained equipment, vacation schedules, benefit programs, 401k plans. Hey, you better call them today. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and with us as the president of the Americans for Limited Government, hooray, here's Richard Manning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Give me one moment, sir.
Let's get him on. And once again, is he on the phone?
He is. He just needed to find a place to where it was quiet so there wasn't any background.
All right, very good. Once again, I want to introduce him, the president of Americans for Limited Government, and I'm all for that. Richard Manning, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, fantastic. I understand that you have worked directly with President Trump on trade issues, and you know more about the man than most people do. What's going on with trade issues with Donald Trump's administration? Are we going to see the pull of the plug on NAFTA, or what's going to happen?
Well, I think Donald Trump is going to be, there's a number of steps in this process. And I think he's looking really hard at it as being really one of the more problematic trade agreements that we have. I do believe he's going to reopen it. Something your listeners should understand is that Barack Obama reopened NAFTA before this because he was negotiating with Mexico and Canada on the Trans-Pacific Partnership along with other countries. So NAFTA's already been reopened. The question is, will this, how President Trump will address it? The first step on that, Zeb, is really has a history of breaking the rules under it is sugar dumping that results in a loss of American jobs.
Richard, I need to interrupt you for a minute. Richard, listen to me. Listen to me for a minute, Richard. We're having a severe breakup on your phone line. I believe it's your cell phone. Is there a solid line number that we can contact you and reestablish this because you're cutting out on us? And that's a real cutout. Wheels, are you going to try to reestablish that, if you would, please?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right away. Thank you. While we are waiting patiently for a reestablishment of that line, I cannot stand cell phones on the air. I know that's the trend. I know everybody's got to have a cell phone. I hate them with a passion on the air, and that's why. While we're waiting to reestablish, hopefully on a landline, I want to be sure and remind you about Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems. And don't forget, no matter what the weather is on the outside, you'll be perfect on the inside. All you have to do to find out about rebates up to $1,700 is get a hold of Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. You be sure and give them a call today.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
He is on the phone now for you, and the connection is established.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Once again, Richard, I apologize, but you were cutting out. I needed to make sure that we got that line reestablished. Pick it up from the point you were telling about President Trump and formerly Obama on the NAFTA trade issues.
Sure. President Obama opened up NAFTA with Mexico and Canada when he did the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which renegotiated those agreements. So President Trump won't be the first one to reopen it. It'll be the first time anybody pays attention to it, though. I think President Trump is going to be pretty aggressive on NAFTA. He knows the impact it's had on American workers, and as a result, he's going to be looking really hard to try to either fix it or nix it, and if it can't be fixed, he'll get rid of it. But the first step in the process, Zeb, is he needs to enforce it, and there have been 11 instances of Mexico breaking NAFTA and flooding our markets with goods. The latest is sugar, which has driven people out of business in
Hawaii and Wyoming because of the dumping of sugar from Mexico. And President Trump will be making a decision through his Commerce Department on June 5 as to what kind of sanctions we're going to take against the Mexican sugar industry. And I think that's a pretty big first step in terms of sending a signal as to how we're going to treat the Mexican government as it relates to trade and their unfair trading practices.
Richard, let me ask you this question, and you're the man with the knowledge on this more so than anybody else. Why is it with past presidents, whether it was Obama or even Bush or anybody like Clinton, etc., why is it that we, the American people and producers, are treated secondarily and everybody else seems to get a first shot, a better treatment other countries than we do? Why?
That's a great question. I think the answer is that there's almost a religion around the concept that trading with countries around the world is a rising tide that lifts all boats. The thing that they ignore is the fact that the underlying basis for most of the trade since we had the World Trade Organization, it basically says that it's a one-way trading arrangement where we lower our tariffs, but these countries we do these agreements with don't have to lower theirs as much. What's more, since we are bigger consumers than anybody else, we are particularly vulnerable because when you're a big consumer, the people around the world can lower their prices to enter our marketplace, but our people, our manufacturers, look at it and say, we can't afford to make stuff here to compete with the prices that we get it from around the world. So they move the manufacturing overseas. That's just a natural thing to happen. You've got a responsibility as a corporation to your shareholders to make money, and so that occurs. And hence you get around the world the effect of Ross Perot's old giant sucking sound of the American manufacturing jobs leaving the country and being replaced by essentially service sector jobs that are much lower paying and, quite honestly, lower overall cost of living. So it's a challenge, and it's an economic challenge. I think that President Trump is addressing it, not just through trade, but also through his regulatory policies, which are going to make it much cheaper to do business in America, and through tax reform, which is promising that will get done, which will also lower how much we charge corporations to actually hire people and be here and make profit here in America. And so you take those three things together, trade, regulation, and taxes, and that will create an environment where we will get our economy going again. We will get above 3% GDP much quicker than the president's predicting in his budget. And we will see a robust growth that will benefit all Americans.
Richard, I'm going to say this, and if you don't agree with me, jump right in the middle of me and tell me so. But honestly, I'm not trying to act like a right-wing nut. I'm just telling you that I feel the trade agreements that we've had in the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years have been to embellish and help other countries and lower the standards of the United States. In other words, it almost seems like a lot of these countries are in cahoots to try to make America less and almost result to a third world status. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I think that what we have is an assumption that there is through some of these trade deals, that there is a fixed pot of money. And if America's rich, then everybody else is poor. And so the objective is to transfer wealth around the world and away from America and towards other countries around the world. When in fact we know the genius of the capitalist system and free market systems is that economies grow, expand, wealth is created. And as a result, if you do this right, if you create an environment where you truly have growing economies, not only in America, but around the world, because if America's economy is strong, then the rest of the world will have to have people to sell stuff to, and they will become stronger as well. So right now, the philosophy behind the free trade agreements that have existed has essentially been that the U.S. is a transfer of wealth policy, and it's wrong. And I believe that President Trump's going to turn that on its ear, and we'll begin to put America first, as he said in his campaign. But I think he really means it. And as I said, his first step is to make sure on NAFTA that we have a very direct trading relationship with Mexico, where they understand if there's a trade agreement, then they have to follow it, and when they don't follow it, they're going to get slapped hard. About a month ago, Canada got slapped around a little bit because they were dumping softwood timber into the United States to the detriment of the U.S. timber industry. So it's not just Mexico; it's Canada as well, and the Commerce Department so far has done a good job of enforcing those things. We need people to contact the Commerce Department, urge them to get tough on Mexico, though, because there's a lot of pushback coming on this one.
Let me ask you this question, Richard, and I don't know how much you want to share with us, but I'd really be interested in knowing. It says on the cheat sheet that I have worked directly with President Trump on trade issues. What kind of a man is he? What kind of a negotiator is he? What kind of a businessman is he? You know him on a personal basis. Share that with us.
Well, let me first of all say that I think the hyperbole in the pitch sheet might have exceeded the reality, but my experience with the president is that he is a top negotiator. He's an extraordinarily smart person. He absorbs information rapidly, but his basic nature is to make a deal. That's how he's made his living. The book is called The Art of the Deal for a reason. So his basic nature is to want to make a deal. But he also knows that sometimes the best deal you make is the one you walk away from. And so he's, I think as an individual, you saw what you had on the campaign trail. I think that's what you really have. You have a guy who is smart, tough, puts America first, but also is seeking to make a deal, and he doesn't have as much of an ideological focus as he does a practical economic focus. And so, and it's hard to predict in Washington, D.C. terms what that translates into. But I think for the American public, it translates into he's going to put them first on these deals. He's going to try to create an environment where American workers, or the 9 million American workers who've been left behind, who would have been working if labor participation rate remained the same, that those workers are attracted back into the economy and find themselves a place in the economy where they can grow, thrive, and have hope for the future, something which has been in short supply the last 8 years.
Let me ask you this question, which dovetails into what you just answered. What about other countries, whether they're our allies or our adversaries? This is kind of an alarm clock going off with Trump, isn't it? Because there's a new sheriff in town and Matt Dillon's cleaning house. Isn't that the attitude?
Well, I think that's from a personal perspective, I wish we were cleaning house faster. Here's what other countries like about Donald Trump. They know where he's coming from. There's no ambiguity. It's simple. If you know where somebody's coming from, you know what you need to do to make it happen. Other countries negotiate from a position of doing what's in their country's interests. The United States for too long has negotiated to trying to do what's in the world's interest, forgetting that a healthy United States is in the best interest of the world. So, Donald Trump puts that on his ear because he's not negotiating from the United States' interest, which is different necessarily than the world's interest. But in doing so, I think the overall economy of the world will thrive. Just for some perspective from some economic numbers, the world's economy has been relatively stagnant apart from Asia over the past 20 years, including the U.S. economy. So we are looking at if we don't get the U.S. economy going, the rest of the world is going to be in big trouble because we're the consumers of the world, for better or worse. And the key to getting America's economy going is having people make stuff here again and getting people paid relatively high-paid jobs so they can afford to buy stuff. And that's that's one of the models that exists, and that's the model they're going to use in the White House. And I think it's a model that will, in fact, return our country to being productive, where we make stuff and where we don't just consume stuff.
Absolutely. Americans for Limited Government. You are the president of that organization. What does that mean, and what would you like the American public to know about your organization?
Sure. Americans for Limited Government, we work on all sorts of issues, trying to get the size of scope of government, lower the size of the scope of government. And we really do a lot of stuff that's informing Congress about different alternative policy options and the like, as well as motivating people to try to get involved in the legislative process and let their voices be heard. A simple, what I would encourage any of your listeners to do is to go on to our corporate website, which is getliberty.org, and subscribe to our daily newsletter, because through that you learn a lot of different things that you wouldn't read in the normal press, and a lot of it's, if you really want to know what's going on and get some deep dives on some issues, we do a pretty good job of that, and I think your listeners would enjoy it.
Let me ask you one final thought here, Richard. Big government in this country is running rampant, and all the politics and the policies are geared towards more government regulations and more control. Can we turn this thing around thanks to organizations like yours and people like yourself, or has it gone too far in one direction?
We better. That's a great question. I ask myself that sometimes. In fact, I asked myself that this morning when I was driving into work. So, I think that one of the great strengths that we tend to forget about America is that the American people are an untamed group of people. They go off and they do what they want. They do what's in their interest. They work for their families. They attempt to, they go to church. They do things every single day that's in their interest, and collectively that turns into something that's an uncontrollable group of decisions that top-down economies don't work. And so we have if given the opportunity through regulatory reforms, through lower taxes, and through and quite honestly through trade deals that don't destroy that opportunity. If we're given that opportunity, I'm pretty confident the American people will figure it out and won't let the government screw it up. But right now, we do have a system with corporate cronyism, where it's in a lot of powerful people's interest to continue the merry-go-round, because as long as you're getting money into your pocket, it doesn't matter where it came from. I think the American people, through their vote for Donald Trump, have said they've had enough of that, and now they need to hold their elected officials, their congressmen, their senators, and their state legislators accountable to make certain that they follow that lead, as opposed to trying to drive Donald Trump to follow their lead. I think ultimately it's up to the American people to tell their congressmen and senators what they expect of them and hold them accountable.
Absolutely. One final thought here, Richard, and I think you're absolutely excellent in answering this question. In our schools, our universities, these kids today, the millennials, are coming out and preaching that they want to have socialism. They want to have socialistic values, and condemning and damning capitalism. How are we going to turn their thoughts at the high school and college level back to where they really understand what makes America great and stand by itself is the capitalistic system?
Republicans control 33 of the 50 governorships. We control 25 House, Assembly, Senate, and governorships, where we control every aspect of government in those states. In those states where Republicans have control, they need to take some steps to make certain that things like English literature and American history and American exceptionalism are taught in their colleges, and mandatorily taught for anybody who's in a liberal arts course. We can't allow people to walk out of a liberal arts course never having read Shakespeare and not having any idea how the American dream has been the bulwark of freedom that's created the very freedoms that they now enjoy. They need to know what the Constitution is. They need to know what the Declaration of Independence is. We have control of the levers of power throughout this nation, through state governments, where education policy should be set and is set, to be able to make that happen. And that's the first step. They have to start exercising our control, our power over the education system to drive those messages and to really overcome the 30 years of far left takeover of our academic system. And we can do it because we have the political power to do it right now. That's the first step. And I think every governor in the nation who's a Republican governor ought to tell their the person in charge of higher education they expect those standards to be met for anybody to get a diploma out of a public university.
Absolutely. Richard, I can't tell you how refreshing it is to listen to you and learn more about the Americans for Limited Government. I'm going to hold you to the fire and ask that you'll come back and be a guest in the future. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime, Zeb. Just give me a call, okay?
I will. Richard Manning, president of the Americans for Limited Government, and a very interesting person. We're going to have him back on the program in the future. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to take a look at a couple of the public service announcements in this area that we want to be sure and highlight for you. One being, of course, the Relay for Life. I have been asked for the last couple of years to really help promote their Relay for Life in the Mini-Cash area, and there's no answer other than yes, absolutely. I just think it's one of the most worthwhile causes anybody could ever help in, because cancer has affected every single family in the United States. And Relay for Life teams take turns walking or running around a track or, taking the time and the effort on a community basis to at least recognize and try to garner funds to fight the deadly disease of cancer. And I'm very proud and honored to say that whatever we can do here on this program, we will, because Saturday, June 10th, from 11 a.m. in the morning until 11 p.m. in the evening at the Burley High School track, they're going to have the Relay for Life for the Mini-Cash area with the theme, One Wish, Two Wish, You Wish, I Wish for a Cure. And I'll tell you, there's nearly 14 million cancer survivors who celebrate another birthday this year because of the efforts of other people, you and I and everybody, helping with the Relay for Life. So I urge you to contribute. I urge you to be a part of it. And we had Debbie Critchfield on the phone with us last week. I'm going to get her on the line again this next week. We're going to talk more about this. Saturday, June 10th from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. at Burley High School, the Mini-Cash Relay for Life. Absolutely important for all of us to support. Once again, coming up on this Saturday, the third annual Idaho Roll Call Memorial Ride, and they're going to have that motorcycle ride start at 9:30 in the morning from Let's Ride in support of our fallen soldiers. And kudos go out to the Rupert Veterans Memorial, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, great people in there, and the city of Rupert. And then they're going to, after the ride, go right straight to the Roll Call Monument, the Idaho Roll Call Monument at 7th and Scott in Rupert for the memorial program and goodies to eat at 1 p.m. For more information, contact George Mass at 650-0104. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now and send it back over to our main studios, and then we'll be back with our next guest, Brian Crabtree. So don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
You know, there's a lot of things in this world that happen and then all of a sudden seem to be just kind of brushed underneath the rug, and we don't really hear the particulars or the hard, cold facts as to why or what happened. And a story that is of similar value about a young man by the name of Seth Rich with the Democratic National Committee was shot and killed. And here's a gentleman on the program right now that's going to tell us more and share with us more. Brian Crabtree, publisher of Talk40.com and TheRealEstateExperts.com. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I wasn't able to get him on the phone, sir, but I'm still plugging it in, and I've left him a voicemail already.
All right. Well, we need to know if you get him immediately, so please keep trying for that if you would. Okay. Brian Crabtree is scheduled for 10:30 on the program this morning, and hopefully Wheels can get him on the air. Until we do, I urge you to run to the telephone right now and dial the number, and it's kind of a Save Zeb's Bacon right now because I was counting on that guest being on the program. So call the number 436-2244, and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about, especially leading up to this Memorial Day. There's a lot of things going on. The weather forecast looks like it's going to be fairly decent this weekend. And I urge all of you, on behalf of Deanne and I, please be careful out there driving, whether you're going to go see relatives or whatever you're going to be doing, going on a family picnic or a barbecue or whatever. Be careful. There are a lot of people on the road that are not paying attention to what's going on, a lot of people on their cell phones, a lot of people texting, a lot of people just absolutely out there looking for a place to have an accident, basically. Be careful. We don't want anybody hurt or injured or even worse during this Memorial Day weekend. So be careful out there. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While we're waiting for Mr. Crabtree, Wheels, are we having any success over there? Hello? Maybe he's on the phone with him right now.
Yes, sir, he is on the phone.
All right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated a moment ago, we're very fortunate to have this man with us this morning. He is the publisher of Talk40.com and the realestateexperts.com, and really had an interesting piece about the shooting and murder of Seth Rich with the Democratic National Party. Let's talk to him right now. Good morning, Brian Crabtree. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great to be with you.
You know, Brian, give us a little basics, a few basics on the story of Seth Rich. What happened and why did it intrigue you to ask a lot of questions?
Well, I think it intrigues me to ask a lot of questions because there doesn't seem to be a lot of people trying to get any answers. And when you have a crime of this level and there's no one getting answers, you have to wonder if there's something here that's being hidden. You know, let's take this back a bit. Sean Hannity brought this up here recently again. He brought it back to light. I had talked about it a couple of months ago, as he had done as well. It sort of died out in the media, and Fox News printed a story on it. I think that was catalyst greatly by Sean Hannity. His coverage was a detective that was hired by the Rich family, who had some interesting nuances, and I'll be happy to get into those in a minute. But something has broken here in the last day or so. The last 24 hours, it's quite interesting. Fox News has retracted the story, and the ultimate piece that they wrote in place of it has said that they felt like the story was put out without much of the typical investigative effort that they had tried. And then last night on Hannity's program, mainly I think because he's under great threat now for the continuation of the Bill O'Reilly stuff, which accusations of sexual harassment, totally unfounded as far as I can see. But now for this, that there's a boycott toward his advertisers. And he said last night, I promise that I will continue to tell the truth. As for my future at Fox News, Media Matters is attacking. The left is organizing an advertising boycott. I will continue to do my job the best of my ability. I serve at the pleasure of Fox News. And he says he's not going to talk about this story anymore out of respect for the family. He'd had a chat with the family of Seth Rich. Of course, I haven't had such a chat, and welcome him talking about it. This whole thing is absolutely, this is to me a bigger potential controversy than even what's being talked about with Rush-Trump collusion. There might be something here. I don't think there is something there with Trump-Russian collusion. And why
hold on a second, Brian. We are losing you. You're VoIPing out on your cell phone, and we lost the last little bit. If you can hold that cell phone very, very still, we're having trouble keeping you on the air. Are you still there?
Can you hear me good now?
Yeah, hold still, whatever you do, because we were VoIPing out there a minute ago. Let me ask you a question, and we'll pick it up from what you said just a minute ago. Are you intimating, and I think you are, and I think I agree with you, that maybe big money, big power is shutting up the inquisitive voices of people like Hannity for fear that they might lose their advertisers? And this infuriates me because it's happened to me in 2007, and absolutely, if the left of our country are trying to use a power play to shut people up, this needs to go full bore with an investigation. Go ahead from that point.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely. I'm not at all even insinuating that. I'm suggesting, based on evidence that is proven, that there is an attack out on Sean Hannity, and this attack has really heated up. At first, it was sexual harassment, and I think it's still some of that. I don't believe that. I've met Sean. I've had conversations with him. I've watched him for years. I believe Sean's a great guy. That's my belief, and no one will convince me otherwise. But I think this is an attack on Hannity because of the fact that ultimately now he's questioning Seth Rich, which means that we now have a media, we now have an institution, a group of institutions in America, that if someone on the right who has a big, powerful voice starts to really get into a subject matter and hold government or the left specifically accountable, that they're going to go after their advertisers, they're going to go after their financing, their backing, and they're going to make up stories, and they're going to find bad actors to corroborate those stories that maybe had some experience with these folks in the past and shut them down. And the last bastion of conservative big media in this country was Fox News, and now the Rupert sons are running it, not Rupert Murdoch, but the Murdoch sons. And it appears that they're trying to shift Fox News towards Sky News. They are liberal, and I'm not beating them up for that. They're running a business, but I think that this is all kind of coming together. And while we have this big victory with Donald Trump for conservatism and the Republicans overwhelming victories in the Senate and the House, we have this massive assault now because they can't get at Trump, so they're going to get to the people that they are believing are closest to him in terms of defense and bring them down. The Seth Rich story, I think, has put a little bit of fuel on that fire, but that fire was already burning.
Let me ask you this, right at this juncture, Brian. What about the story, the actual story of Seth Rich? What makes it so incendiary that it would have the potential of absolutely trying to close other journalists' mouths? What is so special about this story?
There's an inference of the fact that Seth Rich was assassinated because he was sharing information or possessed information that was somehow whistleblower type of information about the DNC. Now, we don't know that. We have no proof of that. We have some Sean Hannity coverage. We have the Julian Assange, was it a conflation by Assange? Assange talked about the 27-year-old DNC staffer who was murdered and that he had been communicating with WikiLeaks. He didn't say that he had any information that he'd given to WikiLeaks. He didn't say that he was a source. So Assange could have been saying that just to get some attention for his organization because he didn't say anything that even if this guy wasn't their source, that would have made Assange's statements untrue. I don't think Assange ever lies, but sometimes he makes relations that have no relation to each other because you automatically run off on that. So we have to be careful with this story. So let me tell you a few facts here that concern me that I believe to be true. Because this has been reported by Fox 5 DC, it's been reported by Sean Hannity, it's been reported by the detective, the private investigator hired by the Rich family. You got a kid shot in the back twice. He's got a cell phone, a watch, and a wallet on him. It's called a robbery, but none of the most expensive items on his person were taken. That's already suspicious, regardless of whether he works for the RNC or the DNC or anybody else. Then you have a police department that has been told to stand down. That's what the private investigator said that one of the detectives at the police department told him. Now, stand down could be maybe it's being federally investigated, and therefore they told the local police stand down. Stand down could also be that powerful people have said make this go away, and so out of fear, a police chief has said stand down. We don't know. We don't know. So no inference there. But you start adding up this pattern of oddities, and all of a sudden you go, there's something weird here. Then you have this contact by the private investigator for the Seth Rich family, who contacts the police department to start asking information, and before you know it, a guy that Rich had supposedly been having trouble with at the DNC is calling the private investigator saying, wait a minute, what are you investigating, what are you doing? Because the police have acted as a conduit back to the DNC. All of that added up together creates suspicion. Am I suggesting that the DNC had Seth Rich murdered because he was leaking information, or the Clinton crime family had Seth Rich murdered? No. I'm suggesting that this is odd, and there's something, perhaps, we don't know what, that they don't want revealed.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want to retrace everything you said just a moment ago, but I think I want to make a more poignant statement and have you answer it. What information, what type of information could be so dangerous to the powers that be that they would try to silence this individual?
Well, I mean, it could be more than what was revealed. I don't know what happened to his laptop. I'm not sure if that's my own abject ignorance or if it's the fact that the laptop is not available for some reason. So what's on that laptop? No one has found that out. I've read nothing about it, and I've spent 2 weeks talking about this story on various radio and TV outlets. So I'm not aware that the laptop is available. Is there more that WikiLeaks never received? If WikiLeaks even used these folks as the source, here's the bigger question. And again, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. These are questions. These are not inferences. If, in fact, Seth Rich was the source of the information from the DNC about cheating Bernie Sanders and favoring Hillary Clinton and all of that we saw, that WikiLeaks dumped in the month of October of 2016, just before the election of Donald Trump as president, if that was the source, then that would mean that there's almost no way that Russia interfered in the election, at least in the context of hacking the DNC, because Seth Rich would have been the hacker. So if that's true, and that if is the big word here, if that's true, then that would mean that our intelligence officials have lied to us. Now, again, I don't want anyone to take any of this deathly seriously, except the question, why are there so many people interested in this case being shut down? That's the only question. All the other stuff I've said is conflated facts. They're all circumstantial. They can lead to guilt of anything that anyone wants to charge. But we ought to get to the bottom of this, and we ought to have the appetite to get to the bottom of it and prove people like me, people like Sean Hannity, absolutely wrong. I'm okay with being wrong here. In fact, I'd like to be wrong, because that would mean that our government is not as corrupt as it would be if this is true. I would like to be wrong. We spend as much time on Donald Trump and the Russia connection, which we don't have any evidence whatsoever. This is no bigger of a conspiracy theory than the Donald Trump-Russia connection. In fact, there's more gray areas in this than in the Trump-Russia story.
I think a question that comes to my mind right now is involving the private investigators or federal investigators, i.e. Rod Wheeler, a private investigator that was hired by the Rich family. Are these people doing their job, or are they also being maybe put under the thumb of somebody saying, I think you'd better leave this alone?
Well, it could be that. Again, I don't want to answer that as if though I have any direct knowledge of it, but I know human nature, and I studied psychology in college quite extensively. Let me just give you my 2 cents. I think the psychology of this is at first there seemed to be some appetite by the Rich family to get out there, get an investigator, get this done. It was paid for by a third party. I guess I don't know if they could afford it or what the issue was. And then all of a sudden, the Rich family has sort of refuted a couple of things that was said by the private investigator you just mentioned. His name is Wheeler. And now they're asking if Sean Hannity is, in fact, telling the truth. I'm not questioning the truth. I'm just questioning the dynamics of why he's willing to be quiet about this. He's saying the family asked him out of respect to take this out of the national spotlight because of just the pain of dealing with it. That sounds to me like 2 things are happening. Fox News is getting a lot of pressure, and the Murdoch sons are not wanting this kind of attention at this moment, trying to recover from the ratings collapse they're having and the Bill O'Reilly loss. And I think, secondly, I bet the Rich family is getting some intense pressure from someone who I have no idea. I could make a few guesses, but I think your listeners are smart enough to try to make those guesses on their own.
You know, one thing I'd have to ask at this juncture, we keep mentioning Fox News, but what about other news outlets, be it CNN, MSNBC, or either of the big three, CBS, ABC, or NBC? Are they devoting any time or any investigatory methods to find out more about this story?
Well, CNN at this point would be akin to a ship running full bore, full throttle with no captain, no crew, no one on board. It may be sailing across the ocean at 30 knots, but the question is, at what point is it going to run out of fuel or sink or hit something? There was Manchester the other night, and this is a developing story around 10:30 in the evening. It's the death of these 22 children, the Ariana Grande concert, and they're talking about new information in the Russian-Trump collusion story. Every other network at that moment was still covering live. You had your main anchors on, Brian Williams on MSNBC. You had Shepard Smith on Fox News Channel covering the actual breaking world news story that was the biggest story of the week by a long shot. And they're going back to a panel on CNN. I don't think they're paying attention to anything at CNN in any intensive way except the Russian Trump collusion. As far as MSNBC, I mean, that's the liberals' version of what Fox News has been in the past, a voice for liberals on cable television. And so I'm sure that they are there to defend the story of the DNC if there's any accusations in that direction, and to try to make Sean Hannity look like a conspiracy theorist, just like we on the conservative right believe that CNN, MSNBC, and the like are conspiracy theorists and out of their mind on this Trump-Russia connection. So I think there's a lot of two sides to the story on all of this. I don't know that it's the media that's bought into the Seth Rich story or against it. I think that there is obviously something about this case that someone in D.C. does not want to get out. That doesn't say much, but it says a lot.
Last question, short answer. I'm almost out of time, Brian, but what about Brian Crabtree himself? Are you concerned? Are you worried? Are you looking over your shoulder because of your inquisitiveness on this story?
Well, I think you always sit and think, just as soon as you get some attention, yes, something could come after you, but I can handle it. I relate to the style of Trump very much so, and if anyone comes after me for talking about a story like this, good luck. I would just say to you and to your audience, and I think a lot of people agree, I believe we have a deep state government here who gets revenge on people, who tries to hold the entirety of our government accountable, and I'm very concerned for the future of our country. If Donald Trump doesn't prevail in this case and in proving his innocence, then it will prove what many Wolf Blitzer just said it 2 days ago. If you come after the intelligence community, they have a way of getting back at you. If we're to stand for that in America, we have a bleak future.
I agree. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, Brian, and thank you so much. Brian Crabtree, publisher of Talk40.com and TheRealEstateExperts.com. Thank you, and please come back in the future, Brian. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Anytime. Good to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Whoa, a story that kind of makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck a little bit. And I've been following this in the press somewhat, and the all of a sudden quiet, hush, don't say any more attitude is a little bit more than spooky, and I'm going to do some more follow-up on this story next week. We've got to get a weather forecast on here real quick. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, brings us the weather, and the number to call, 324-7657. Oh, my goodness, that tax return meat package, you get about 57 pounds of beef and pork and chicken for just $249 plus tax, and it is delicious. Excellent. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here is your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. We are looking at sunny skies for today, but it's going to be windy. We are having a wind advisory that is going to be in effect from noon today until about 9 o'clock tonight. Wind steady out of the west, 20 to 30 miles an hour, gusts possible of 40 plus. Other than that, high of 72. Tonight, low of 41. Tomorrow, winds dying down. Looks like sunny skies, high of 67 with an overnight low of 44. And then partly to mostly sunny skies and 65 as we kick off the weekend. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, yes, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Our thanks go out this morning again to our major sponsor, and I never can say enough about them because they are absolutely the best at what they do. And that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Doing the right thing matters, with the best of tires for all the different driving, all the different vehicles, pickups, SUVs, passenger cars, horse trailers, boat trailers. They've got them all. I urge you to stop in before any kind of a trip and make sure that you are tire safe with the best of tires from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. 7 locations serving you: Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yes, sirree, they are the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Wheels, are you over there at the microphone, old buddy?
I am.
I'm going to turn it over to you as we say goodbye for today, and we're going to wish everybody well. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06 and ride the horse again for 3 hours right here on Zeb at the Ranch, along with my good buddy engineer Wheels over at the main studios, and all the callers. Don't forget, the way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. Buddy, you've got it. Take it away.